are here for the September 2018 Self-Publishing Advanced Salon with me, Joanna Penn, and Orna Ross. Hi, Orna.
Hi, Joanna, and hello all. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Yay, we have live people. Very exciting. This is our second try on the new tech, so we'll see how it goes this evening. So tonight we are focusing on some of the big news topics that have been happening in indie land, I guess, or in author land. Let's just say author land for the last few months. We've had a few big topics. So today we're really looking at some new stuff. But before we get into the news, we like to update you on what's going on. So Orna, what's happening with ALLi and also with you?
Yeah, well, ALLi first. We come into September now after what was supposed to be a quiet August, but actually wasn't at all. This summer was very noticeable that things didn't quiet down as they normally do. I think that's interesting. I think that's the way it's going for authors, and I know we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a few moments. But we're getting ready now for Digital Book World and for the Self-Publishing Advice Conference. So we do these two online conferences each year where we bring together kind of what is most new, most trending for authors and educate everybody about what's happening for indies. And we are in the middle of our Self-Publishing 3.0 campaign, which will feature very much at Digital Book World and during that Self-Publishing Advice Conference. So we have a number of people who are talking about that. And for those who don't know what that is, it's really about authors building sustainable businesses through multiple revenue streams and not, just following the latest, whatever the latest kind of easy win is, but looking to build up something that will last over time. So I'm going to be talking about that at Digital Book World, about how we do it. I've got a book actually coming about it. Adam Croft and other people are going to be talking about it from different perspectives around mindset, business, and every aspect of that, really. And we're also just putting to bed the autumn edition of the Indie Author, which is the ALLi member magazine. So yeah, September in with a bang. Yeah, what are you up to?
Well, I am currently in editing phase for Valley of Dry Bones, which I had a really good, it was interesting. Last time I think we talked about different energies, and we often talk about the beginning energy and the finishing energy. And I'm in that finishing energy. I know the story's finished now, and now I'm in editing. And I actually heard you on Rachel Herron's show talking about Deepening Novels, which was a really good interview. And that's kind of what I'm focusing in on for this pass. I know what I'm doing with my Arcane series, so I don't have to rewrite, but I'm adding a layer and depth and just line editing. So that will go to my editor next week. So I'm moving into the finishing energy, and I'm starting on the exciting phase for the next book. And I'm like trying to balance my enthusiasm for moving on to actually finishing this one and starting to plan the launch and all those things, because it just becomes, like you're saying about sustainable income, it becomes, you have to have a process and a matter of routine around things once it's your living. So maybe we'll talk about book launches and things next month, because you will have launched a book and I will have launched another one. So maybe we'll come to that. So that's kind of where I am with that. What else? Oh, I also did a podcast with my mum on the Creative Penn podcast, because after 3 books as Penny Appleton co-writing Sweet Romance, we have gone our separate ways, and the podcast was a lovely way to discuss what she'd learned, discuss what I learned, and also the fact that I really discovered that to co-write with someone, you really have to be going in the same direction. You can't be so disparate in genre, you can't be so disparate in not ability, but experience. It's very difficult. Even though my mum is 70, she's my mum, I'm still a more experienced writer. So I've learned a lot of lessons, and that podcast with my mum has been one of the most popular podcasts on the Creative Penn podcast.
And can I say, if you haven't heard it, you must. Everybody out there, it's charming, but it's very, very, very illuminating. It's a fabulous interview. Well, it's not even an interview. It's special.
More discussion. Thank you. But that's been emotionally kind of wrenching. Obviously, it's very difficult. You want to work with someone you love and help them, but then you realize that you have to let each other go and move into your own journeys. So yeah, it's quite an emotional post, but resonated with lots of people. So that's good. So you've talked about ALLi. What about you, Orna Ross?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting, actually. I think it's that idea of yours to do launch next time will be interesting, because I am doing an experiment at the moment where I am simultaneously launching 2 books. Well, I'm just getting going now on this. One is a nonfiction book, the GoCreative, a map for creative entrepreneurs. That's the final title, which has changed about 45 times. But simultaneously, I'm also going to launch a book called Keepers, which is a selected poetry, and found out that Bookbub will actually, not saying that I will get a feature deal, but they actually do poetry, which they didn't do before, if it is a certain size. And so that was the idea, rather than I had just published a smaller poetry book, but realizing that they would only take it if there was X number of pages in it, I just did a selected of previous books so that it would fit. So I'm going to do the launch on both of these. Traditionally, everybody always thinks poetry doesn't sell, nonfiction is easy sell, all this kind of stuff. I want to do a really kind of in-depth analysis of my own experience as to whether, you know, what's true, what's not true, what's a myth, and, you know, what works. Do you launch them very differently? And obviously I only have a limited amount of time that I can put into each of these. And you know, it's the sort of experiment that could take a year if you were to do it properly, but I think it will be illuminating. So lots of launch activity going on at the moment. I'm also looking for a script agent, actually. After just a very short time of doing submissions, I've decided, no, I can't go back to submitting. I just can't do it. Once you get used to being able to put your stuff out there. So I'm going to hand that one over to an agent, and it fits in with a project that's running in ALLi at the moment. We have repeatedly tried to get something going on the rights end of things for our professional members in particular, but for all our members, and with no success. You know, it's just so difficult to get agents who get indie. Now it is improving. So what we're going to do for now is just get a panel together where we can list people and say, look, these agents have sold indie work. They do get it. They know what they're doing. So, yeah, that's that on the agenting front. And yeah, I'm writing away in the background. Then I always kind of keep some writing going. And so
I'll add on the agent thing, or the foreign rights thing. And again, as I always admit, you told me so, on the print side, and setting up my own ISBNs for my print books, and setting up Curl Up Press. So we have curluppress.com, which doesn't have my name in it. And that site, we're now in sort of five different rights negotiations with different countries who have just come to us through Curl Up Press. 4 of those are from nonfiction. So I think that's interesting in developing countries. So again, they're not, it's not going to pay for a mortgage or anything, but it's, going to pay for a few dinners. But it's interesting because they all have quoted the ISBN numbers. It's all been around that print sales. So I think that's interesting that started to happen since I've had that publish. It's like my site, The Creative Penn, and JF Penn, and your site, Orna Ross, they're all reader focused websites, or other author focused websites. And it's almost like you need a portal to the publishing industry, which is like your publishing website. And that's when they kind of see you as a different prospect. So that's
very interesting, and that's one worth teasing out and seeing. Yeah. Because foreign rights, the thing about them is they are small. They're never, they're not huge ever, but they really do start to add up if you've got lots of books. And once you get, getting the first 1 or 2 deals is the hardest. And then once people see that you've sold your French or your German or whatever, then you start getting the others. And then across a number of books, that really can add up to a significant income. It's not something you build quickly. None of this is it? But it is something that really adds to the bottom line over time. Rights departments are very important in publishing houses, and there's a reason for that, So
Yeah, and also I see it as discoverability for this next 10 years, as mobile and global and digital means that we'll sell more in other countries other than US, UK, Australia, Canada. You know, if I have one non-fiction book that's available in Korean, you know, maybe that will then get me discovered, and there'll be some other things that might happen. And so I think, yeah, it's that long-term view that we always talk about. Don't be dismissive. And I think this is the other thing. An agent, and Catherine Rush has talked a lot about this recently, an agent might see a $500 deal and go, not even worth the email. Whereas we see a $500 deal and go, hell yeah, give me, you know, so it's worth it.
It's money I didn't have yesterday, and I might as well have it, and it's extra. And I was talking to another writer about this just this morning, actually. It's the same thing with, say, older books that you're not working on marketing at the moment. They're lying there. Maybe they're only selling, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 copies a day. But still, if there are a number of them there, and if you add up how much those books, you know, over years build up, each one, it all adds. I think we have to understand, and I think I'm understanding more and more, that we are looking at micropayments all over the place. But what's great about tech, you know, the technology that we have now, if you were looking at those sorts of payments years ago, the administration of collecting them and making them happen, they just wouldn't be worth it. But because of just the technology, it's very, very simple. And so every bit really does add up. And if I look at people who are building author businesses as opposed to just doing well at the moment, you know, with a particular title or whatever, but people who are steadily over time, each year earning more than they were last year, building their creative assets, building their commercial assets, they're all have multiple streams. They have loads and loads of these. So they're not just building one thing, they're building lots and lots of different streams all at the same time and at different rates. And they're happy to do that as long as it isn't taking too much time. So I really do see this as the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so talking of print, I think one of the biggest topics, and it's funny because I think we mentioned last time when I had just been through moving all my books from CreateSpace to KDP Print, the writing has been on the wall and there's been like some discussion over it, but now it's actually happened. So CreateSpace is rolling into KDP Print and authors have been notified. So what are your, I mean, obviously I'm already moved, I'm happy as, but what are your comments and recommendations for authors around this?
Well, first thing to say is it's not too difficult, you know, and recommendations are just get on with it. Stop talking about it, thinking about it, scratching your head, wondering why they did it, wondering what it means. You know, there is nothing to discuss here. You just kind of, if you want to be in print through Amazon, you're just going to have to bite that bullet. There is just one big question, and it's still outstanding. I was hoping to have the answer before we did our show here this evening, but I didn't as yet. And that is, it's having a slight effect on how, it seems to be having an effect on how you manage your Ingram Spark stuff. So, and I'm talking now about how you set up a new book. So previously, you know, you could start with Amazon, or sorry, I should go back and say our recommendation, and you know, to maximize your benefit, with print books, we recommend that you publish both on Amazon for the Amazon ecosystem and on Ingram Spark for extended distribution. And that was always fine. Didn't really matter which one you did first. They worked together fine, provided you opted out of Amazon in Ingram Spark and you opted out of expanded distribution in CreateSpace. Now it looks like you have to set up in Spark first. And I just wanted to get the official word on that, but it looks like you're not really getting the option to opt out of Amazon unless you do it that way around. So once you assign your ISBN in KDP, it's causing real difficulty for some of our people. So more on that next time. But that is the only stumbling block, and it looks like it will be actually quite easy to to make it happen, and we will have the recommendation as soon as we have it clear. Otherwise, folks, just do it, bite the bullet, do it. It's no more than a morning's work to it shouldn't be, unless you've got a lot of titles. So yeah, and they are, because they do understand that there's a lot going on, and they're answering that, you know, there is a good machine set up there behind the scenes. So if you're having difficulty, just hit the help desk and just get it done and get it over.
Yeah, and I would, having worked in an IT department and on a help desk back in my former life, there will be bugs. You know, I had all the, like we talked about last time, all the emails that came through asking, some of them for my copyright notice, some of them the spine was wrong, some of them the barcode was wrong. There were lots of little things that kind of, you know, happened, but they're all fixable. And there's going to be this probably, I think, is it end of October, I think they've said, is the cutoff. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. So basically, you're going to get issues, and I would imagine that by Christmas, those issues will be sorted. So a little bit of patience, which I know seems really difficult in the author community, but they will move all of this stuff over. Now, I think what's really interesting, and I think, again, we mentioned it a bit last time, but I think one of the biggest impacts is going to be the AMS, the Amazon advertising, because it's linked on the KDP platform. And many authors didn't really know that you could use it for print before, but now it's obvious there's a button. And so I think there's going to be millions more people, more indies advertising print books on Amazon.com, and when they open it up to the UK as well. We've also got in the news problems at Barnes & Noble, which I think is interesting. Their former CEO is suing them over wrongful dismissal. So we've got problems at Barnes & Noble. It looks like a print company was going to buy them and then pulled out. We've got indies doing more with print and print advertising. What do you see in this arena?
I think I see what you see. I think I see what you see. So yeah, first on Barnes & Noble, it's just absolutely just crazy how that has completely collapsed, and Nook is gone now out of their stores and they cannot sell themselves. You know, it's a real sign of distress and dis-ease in that book selling world of print. So up to now, print for a lot of indies has been a bit of an also-ran. But what we are seeing among readers is that there is a very significant tranche of readers that are electronic resistant. Readers are conservative by nature, and loads of people either love their reader, or they're reading on their phone, or they just don't go there at all. And it really is quite substantial. So it has traditionally been, I mean, people often think, even in terms of, oh, indie authors only publish ebooks, but digital print means print on demand as much as it means an ebook. So yes, with the ability to do your ads and do your marketing for your print book. And I know that a lot of people who are doing Facebook ads, you know, and have wanted to only kind of if they are moving things, they're now looking at moving their print books as much as their ebooks. So yeah, I think it's all good for us.
Yeah, I mean, part of me kind of wants, I mean, if you advertise on Amazon, and obviously we want you to look at advertising on other platforms. You mentioned Bookbub, they're now doing pre-order and new releases, so as well as poetry, and they're really expanding their reach. And what I'm finding with Bookbub, because the other thing I did this month is get my books on Google Play through Publish Drive. So I have achieved full penetration of ebooks into Google Play, but of course they don't have print books. Kobo doesn't have print books, although they might maybe do that. Kobo does have audio, Google does have audio, but only the wide distribution audio. So the benefit, obviously, of advertising on Amazon is you get print, and audio all at once. And especially with nonfiction, I found that, whoa, the nonfiction audio does super well. But it's going to be so fascinating to see how the market share is clawed. I mean, I shared my figures last time. My print share of my revenue went from 10% to 21%. If that happens across the board for every indie author, that has to take market share from traditional publishing.
And I think also that readers are getting used to buying books online, and they are more inclined, they're more willing to buy directly from authors also. And now I don't think a lot of us want to get into, you know, wrapping up print books and sending it off, but there are, depending on the kind of books you write, you know, if you're writing sort of straightforward mainstream nonfiction, fiction, no. But if you're somebody who does a particular kind of premium book in particular, I do actually send off in the post a premium gift book, and I love doing that every single time I do it. It's really, really nice, and it's worth it financially, and write a nice card and all of that kind of thing. That's just a nice thing to do. So, but for ebooks, you know, and there are some tax implications and stuff, and I think all of these things are going to get ironed out over the coming years. And I think that we should also be thinking about how all of this impacts on what we're offering ourselves on our own websites, as well as, of course, it doesn't mean not going through the services, but it does mean also thinking about your own little corner of the internet and a bit of e-commerce there, whatever works for you. So I really do think we're going to see big things. You're not the only one who is seeing print rising, and readers are beginning to realize I don't have to go to the bookstore to buy print. You know, I can actually browse for a print book and buy print. And I know we're very aware of that and have been for a very long time, but I think readers are really coming around to it. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, fantastic. Another interesting expansion, Kobo and Walmart, which I think is a really interesting development. What are your, and this has just recently happened, and I certainly have books that have gone into the Walmart opening sale. It includes ebooks and audiobooks. So what are your thoughts on Kobo and Walmart?
Yay, and double yay, triple yay, because Kobo has had difficulty with penetration, to use your word, into the US market. They're Canadian based, and they're very good for around the world sales generally, but the US has been a challenge for them because Amazon was so dominant there, kicked off there, and all of that. So this is and Kobo's fantastic in terms of partnerships. The kinds of partnerships that they do are always very interesting, and they're always very, you know, territorially based. So Walmart, I think, is a very good fit for them. Problem with Walmart at the moment is they're just not set up to sell books, but I imagine that's going to change. They do what they do well. They're not going to be a fit for every author, obviously, but they're going to fit big contingent of indies extremely well. They are exactly the kind of store that has the kind of readers that eat books. You know, if they like reading, they just love reading. So, and they read genre fiction a lot and so on. So I think your genre fiction writer could do extremely well there. And I think it's just great. It's a big opening up. So Kobo is going to be at Digital Book World talking about all the various layers of this deal, and I'm looking forward to hearing more in detail about that. But again, it's very good news for indies, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of the Google Play thing and the Kobo audio thing is interesting because I've done 2 books that are non-exclusive to ACX through Authors Republic, and Find Your Way Voices also you can do through Drafter Digital, and both of those audiobooks are available on those other platforms without me having to do anything. And now I've been saying for a while now that I think staying on ACX because there wasn't another player really, and now I kind of see, okay, I think with more of this distribution, I actually think there could be more audiobook penetration into other markets in the US. They've undercut the US monthly sign up for audiobooks on Walmart compared to Audible. So I don't know how long that will last, but Walmart customers seem to me to be people who want a bargain, right? There's reasons you go to Walmart. So maybe we're going to see some really interesting stuff there, and indies are already pricing at a discount to traditional publishing. So we might, it's going to be so interesting. I hope it's not like what happened in Britain with Sainsbury's and Kobo, because that didn't really work.
Yeah, but now they're with Smiths, which is a better mix, and then they had a bit of a problem there too. But the great thing about Kobo is they weather their storms. They stay there. They sort it out. They don't panic, you know, they just get on with it. They're a really, really good books company, and Kobo Writing Life is a really good indie platform. And going direct on Kobo if you can, and I realize that, you know, depending on how much time you have as an author, it may make sense for you to just do Amazon and an aggregate. But if you can go direct on Kobo, it opens you up to so much more on the platform in terms of promotion of your books, and also library facilities and things that are not as available if you're with an aggregator for Kobo. So if you have time, really would recommend going direct to Kobo. Yeah, especially now this news as well, I think just adds to that.
Yeah, like they're not going away. You know, I remember when you and I got excited when Nook moved into the UK, and I actually went to meet them. And then when we saw that they were pulling out of their international, you know, they pulled back to America, both of us were like, oh, well, they're not in it for the long term. Whereas everything Kobo does is about expanding their reach into these other territories. And, you know, like they understand that it's not a short-term profitability, you know, thing. You can move into a new territory and it's going to take a while. And the other interesting company, and you know, I've had my doubts about many of the companies that spring up, mentioning no other names, but the company that I'm really interested in right now is Publish Drive, who've just announced distribution with Dang Dang in China. And I interviewed Kinga Gentetix, the CEO and co-founder, on my podcast, and just really, and she's Hungarian, which I think gives just automatically a different view to the US centric companies. And they've spent a long time getting into China, and my books are, I believe, now going through to China, which I'm so excited about. Now, of course, I might make like 0.2, you know, pounds or something once everything's done, but I'm very excited about the expansion into markets that we haven't been able to touch so far.
Yes, Publish Drive is a fantastic distributor. I mean, the three aggregators I think that have stayed in the marketplace and that are worth working with in different ways are Publish Drive, Draft to Digital, and Streetlit. And they're the three, but Publish Drive, just staying with them for the moment, they're a very interesting. Kinga herself is super interesting. She was one of Forbes 30 under 30, which is a fantastic achievement. And they are, you know, they've brought in an author success coach. They have all sorts of different things. And actually they've got a big news item coming at Digital Book World also. So they're constantly looking at what's working and what's going on, and they're very author-centric. They do work with trade publishers as well, but they really get indie authors and they understand the different needs, and, you know, they are completely, yeah, again, like Kobo, as you say, they're there for the long haul. You don't get the sense that they're not doing anything except working really hard in the background to make this work. And both of those companies as well are companies that, you know, they make money when you make money, which is always a good thing in a service. So yeah, and the reach that they have is absolutely fantastic. It's 200 plus stores, I think, now, worldwide. So for distribution to those places where you cannot reach, Publish Drive can definitely get you there. There's not a lot of action in some of those, to put it, you know, there's almost no action in most of those, I would say, for most authors. But it begins with distribution. It begins by being there. Then you can make something happen, you know, but if you're not there, you can't. And then by being there, sometimes certain things take off. And so, yeah, if you can, again, if you have time, it's well worth being, you know, having your books on Publish Drive, I think, is something that's well worth doing. And again, with these aggregators, if you're already on Draft to Digital, they are much more mainstream, do far fewer outlets, that's fine. You can go to Publish Drive and opt out of the ones that you already have distribution for and just use the ones that you want to reach, so, or that you haven't already got covered. So yeah, a combination. And in short, very often authors think, oh, it's one or the other, I can't go to them because I'm already with this one. Again, you look at what you, of course, each business wants all your business. They want you to be exclusive to them, or they want you to, you know, Ingram wants you to just go with Ingram, Amazon wants you to just go with Amazon, but actually you can work both together and should. And it's the same with, it's not either or, it's both or all or whatever.
Yeah, and actually one of the reasons I've been really thrilled about CreateSpace kind of going is because I'm really happy to have now KDP Print and Ingram Spark for my print books, and then so I go direct to Amazon and Kobo Writing Life, and iTunes Connect still, although I'm thinking about not doing that anymore because it's such a pain in the ass. And then I use Drafter Digital for Nook and some of the other ones, and then now Publish Drive. And what's so interesting is starting again on a new platform. So Google Play, it seems, I've been listening to Adam Croft on this actually, who's using Bookbub ads to, Bookbub ads not featured deals to go direct into Google Play. So it's always going to be cheaper when you're advertising non-Amazon platforms because most people only advertise to Amazon. So really interesting to kind of start moving things. And yeah, $10, but hey, I made $10 like back in the day, like in the first month, you know, not the first year probably of going indie. So getting $10 on a new platform just makes me excited to see what's going to happen over the years.
And it's another stream. It's knowing that trickle will grow to, you know, a stream and then a big river, and then who knows, you know. But you don't need it to ever be huge on any one. So yeah, and we all begin there. I think that's the really important thing to say. And we all fall back there if we don't do anything. You know, no book sells itself. You have to be making an effort around your books. Okay, occasionally a book takes off and nobody knows why, and it does really well. But there's a reason why, actually. Something happened somewhere along the line that made that happen. So yeah, it's always worth saying that we do need to market our books. It's not an optional extra. It's got to happen.
So one of the other things that has kind of happened this summer, and actually just before we came on the call, the new hot sheet came out, and I recommend the hot sheet to people. It's Porter Anderson and Jane Friedman. Every 2 weeks do like the top news in the industry. It's really good. I think it's at hotsheet.pub or something like that. Anyway, Google hot sheet. It's really good. Just came out with another agent behaving badly story, and we've heard of a number of embezzlements, some quite high profile ones, and then authors coming out the woodwork talking about other things that have happened with agents. And both, you know, you're talking about finding a Hollywood agent, you know, right, and we've talked about agents and rights agents. And so, I mean, it's very hard because many authors still dream of finding a perfect agent who's gonna get them an amazing deal and everything is fine and they don't have to do the marketing, they don't have to do the anything. Like, that's what everybody really wants. So what are your thoughts on good and bad agents, and how can people tell? And you know, what are some of your recommendations? Because weren't you an agent once, Orna?
Yes, I was. So obviously, I don't believe all agents are bad people, because they're not, and they're really not. There are fantastic agents out there who really do a lot. But an agent, you know, once upon a time, a publisher kind of was your shoulder to cry on, and then publishers stopped doing that and it became very, very businesslike in the 1990s. And that was the era when agencies grew up in a big way, and agents became the author's shoulder to cry on. So that was one traditional sort of thing that they did. But essentially, an agent is there to make you more money than you would make if you didn't have an agent. And also sometimes lose sight of that and loved talking about my agent this, my agent that. And when you ask them what their agent has actually sold for them, you find out that the agent hasn't sold anything for years, or probably never sold, possibly even never sold anything at all. So that's one thing. If your agent isn't actually selling your books and making more for you than you can yourself, you don't really have an agent. It's shocking what's being revealed in some of the bigger agencies, what has been going on. And Christine Catherine Rush is so interesting on this, and what has happened to her and to Dean and to various other authors who are willing to come out and talk about it. Also, author friends of mine who are not willing to come out and talk about it, who don't want to name names and who don't want to admit what has been going on. So there are a number of agents that are seriously unethical and are doing seriously super bad things, complete and utter theft. How do you know? You don't know. You know, there is no way to know from the outside, actually, because some of these people are really highly respected names in the industry, and it's really quite shocking. So it comes back to this whole thing, and I know I'm banging this drum all quarter, this self-publishing 3.0 idea, which is you are in business and you have got to be business-like about it. You have to, so many authors still carry this thing, want the agent, you know, want the publisher, publish me please, be my agent please, represent me. And that's an emotional need. And we all have emotional needs, but they're not really for your business life. You take your emotional needs somewhere else. You know, if you need a coach to work through those things with you, you know, your family probably will be useless because they won't understand. And you've got to find a way to meet your own emotional needs, but not through your business relationships. You've got to understand as an author that nobody's going to protect your interests except you, really. And your agent is your representative, but you've got to know exactly what's being represented, how much money they're taking in on your behalf, where that money is coming from. You have to insist on seeing the paperwork. And then, I know it's terrible, but you have to read the paperwork. You have to read the contract before you sign it. Get us or somebody else to have a look at it on your behalf. Don't, you know, authors have to grow up, I think. You know, if you want to be an indie, we proudly call ourselves indie authors, but the first step to independence is earning your own living. So, you know, I think that's the lesson, really. The only lesson that can be taken from all is I'm expecting to hear a lot more. I'm from Ireland, and I know how when you get one corruption story, it's a little thread you pull, and there is a lot more corruption behind. So I'm expecting us to hear an awful lot more about this over the next year or two, because I know it's quite, I won't say widespread, but it's certainly there. And the thing is that we can't know for sure how much it's there. We'll never probably know for sure. And the only thing we can do is learn the skills that protect ourselves.
And like upskill on sorry, I'm getting an echo. Is it gone?
You're sounding fine.
Okay, sorry. I can hear my own voice. No, really interesting stories. There was one coming out of Australia, a very well-known author who had done a handshake deal with an agent like 20 years ago or something. And now the agent was like, yeah, all of that, this money is mine. The author's saying, no, it's not yours. I never agreed to that. And there's another thing in America right now that's really interesting around Hollywood. And hopefully we'll be able to link to all this in the show notes. But around changing things so that handshake deals can't be done. And so things are really changing with contracts. So that, again, advocating, you know, saying I'm not responsible, like my agent's responsible, or I just sign whatever, that's got authors into a lot of trouble. But so many authors seem to have handshake deals with agents. And to me, that just seems bonkers. And then, you know, something, because this, I presume that they assume nothing's ever going to happen. And then it does.
I don't know that it's, oh, nothing bad's going to happen. Sorry. Yeah.
Or nothing amazing. So they think, oh, they just trust blindly.
I think it's this gratitude thing as well. You know, you labor alone for so long as you train yourself to be a writer and to be good enough for somebody to kind of take an interest in you. And then it's that old system. It trained people into subservience. It trained people into, you know, not looking after themselves. So I think also there's this incredible, I remember having to force some authors to sign our agreement when we ran the agency in Dublin, and because they were just so grateful that we turned up, and we were thrilled with their talent, dying to represent them. We were, you know, saw them as a huge a huge thing for us, but they were saying, oh, it's fine, whatever you do, I wouldn't do it anyway. So it's just so great that you're doing anything will do. And you know, I'm there saying, no, actually, you have to sign this. It protects you, it protects us, it protects everybody. And I do know that if you get to the point where you're arguing out the contract, your relationship is probably over anyway. And I do know that in publishing, contracts are very rarely, if ever, contested. But you still have to have one, and they still are important, and you still need to think a lot about what goes in there. But it is changing. I think, again, technology, the way we're all able to talk to each other, the way we're even able to have this discussion here, and other authors are listening and are going to think a little bit differently. And we are hearing these stories because these things went on in the past, but you wouldn't actually hear about it. Publishing is a really, you know, it's one of those smoke and mirrors kind of industries where what's out front is very, very different to what goes on in the background. And you see authors going through the trajectory of their publishing life when they're, you know, just thrilled to get published, and then they see behind the scenes not so thrilled anymore. Then it becomes just, oh, my publisher is just, you know, no. It's a completely different sort of experience when you are in there. But again, and we're always saying this, but it's no harm to say it, it's just so fantastic to be able to do the indie thing. And because you had so little control before, it was inevitable with that authors would get frustrated and would get, in some cases, bitter and twisted, because that lack of control, and when you feel that somebody is publishing your work or representing your work and doing things so differently to how you want them to be done, or what you thought of when you were writing the book, or what your hopes are for your writing life, it really was intensely frustrating. So we have the option, which is marvelous.
Yeah, and I mean, the Alliance is all about empowerment of the creator, and that's definitely, you know, what I try and do as well. I mean, it really is about the empowerment of the creator. And also, we're always talking about the business side, but understanding that the business is just as creative, marketing is just as creative. You know, you can be creative with all parts of your business, your author business. You don't have to see these things as different or parts of it as negative. I mean, there are always going to be things that are not so fun, but you know, you all of it to me is creative, and business is one of the most creative things in the world. I mean, look at what we can create. So we're really coming to the end. I did want to sort of ask about what's coming up with conference season, because there's a few things happening. I'm speaking at NINC in Florida in a couple of weeks. Tell us what you've got going on, and a bit more about what people can look forward to.
Yeah, I think it's great what's happening this autumn with or fall for our American friends, North American friends, with conferences, because we're really seeing the rise of the indie in publishing conferences for the first time, and it's well due. We have you're speaking at NINC, I know, which is always very full of great business-like, business-minded indie novelists. In that case, I'm going to be at a Digital Book World, and ALLi is turning out in force at Digital Book World. There'll be quite a few people there. We'll have a booth and all of that. And while there, we will also be taking a visit to Ingram Spark, because their plant is in Nashville, where Digital Book World is going to be this year. So that's going to be really interesting, and our Self-Publishing Advice Conference will bring that to those members and followers who can't actually go to Nashville. We'll bring Nashville to you, and there's lots of interesting. Digital Book World is actually, for the first time, melding very well trade publishing and indie publishing. So we've got, you know, we don't have a self-publishing ghetto, as we very often have had at conferences in the past, where, you know, here's the conference and there's the self-publishing stream, or there's the self-publishing single seminar. What they're doing is looking at every topic that is being raised. There are authors on almost all the panels. And there's lots of talk about, you know, indie publishers, small imprints who do publish some of their authors, and author publishing and trade publishing. We'll all be sitting together and all be talking about the same topics. That's the plan anyway. We'll see if it works out like that. Another interesting one is Writer's Digest, and now an ALLi partner member. I think very interested now in self-publishing, and for the first time ever running a purely indie conference, Indie Lab, which is in Cincinnati, last weekend of September. And you're going to be speaking at Bookbaby's conference.
Yeah, Bookbaby's conference as well in Philadelphia in November, which is, and of course, Bookbaby is a print author service partner, primarily print, right? They maybe they do ebooks as well, but they're primarily a print.
But people go to them because they don't want the hassle of making print books, generally speaking.
Yeah, so they're like a partner member, and that's a really interesting conference. Again, I'm really looking forward to some of the speakers there. I know Jane Friedman's going to be there. I think Sean Coyne is at NINC or one of these as well. Like, it's so nice, I think, in many ways to go to these conferences for us as well, to meet people that we love to learn from. And so I'm looking forward to it, to both of those things. But there's also the online conference, which will be coming.
Yes, self-publishing advice conference.com. You'll find all about that there. Our speakers are lining up for you as we speak here now, and some really interesting topics coming up. Lots of mindset stuff. And health issues are kind of, I know you've got a healthy author as ever ahead of the trend, but health issues, I think, and self-care are becoming very live for authors. So we've seen a lot of submissions around that, which we've never had before.
There we go. I feel happy to be ahead of the curve on that one.
As ever, my dear, as ever. So we'll have mindfulness for authors and things like that. Adam Croft's going to be talking about mindset, which he's doing a lot around at the moment, but he's got lots of, I think, really good things to say about that. And so you can tune into self-publishing advice conference.com and find out what's coming up there. And you can just register. It's free. You just need to register to let us know you're going to be there. And all our speakers and donate their time and their expertise free of charge. So yeah, that would be good. So lots going on. There is no excuse for not knowing what we need to know. Sometimes the information can be a bit overwhelming, but I think the thing to do is just go and look for where you're at right now, solve whatever your challenge is in this moment, and don't think too far ahead, and just work step by step through the process. And the second time it gets easier, and then eventually it's no trouble at all.
Yeah, and again, we're all learning. I mean, like I just mentioned about Google Play, it's a whole new platform for me. I'm starting to learn how to do it. It's changing my perspective on things. None of us ever stop, and that is, again, both a blessing and a curse. Like, there isn't a finish line of, oh, I know everything now. And to me, that's actually why this is the best job in the world, and why I know I can do it until I die. Because before, when I did like a proper job, it was like, okay, I was an expert in a certain thing, and I just did that thing over and over and over again, and I was just brain dead. I really was. And they paid me very well to do the same brain dead thing over and over again. But with this, we just get to learn. We get to learn the creative stuff, the business stuff, the marketing stuff. We get to connect with cool people. You know, Orna and I met on Twitter back in, like, when I lived in Australia. You know, we're always meeting new people. So I hope that encourages everyone. Like, I had an email the other day from someone who said they had gone into the morass of Facebook and had come out really depressed about being an indie, because they just felt like people were saying nothing works anymore, that you can't write, you just have to do marketing all the time. And I was like, look, what you need to do is curate who you listen to. And I hope that we are positive, empowering force in the indie world. But you have to actually stop listening to things. So I curate what goes in my head very, very carefully because of that mindset stuff. If you let the negativity in, you're just going to be miserable. But actually, the truth is, this is such a brilliant community. We are empowered. Things are amazing. What do you reckon?
Well, absolutely. anything that's negative is not true in a sense, because you make this, and this is what's unique about it. And again, a blessing and a curse. It's a big challenge because we've never been trained in our education, or nothing before has prepared us for this. So there is a whole settling in sort of period whereby you learn, I can actually do this any way I want to, so long as it's working. So it's unique in that you're going to be balancing your passion for what you're doing with a profit mentality. And that's the key. It's to get those two into a fine and harmonious balance. And that does take a little bit of trial and error. But anybody who tells you any flat statement about self-publishing is wrong, because self-publishing isn't one thing. It's 10,000 things, and it's you make it your thing. It's what works for you, won't work for me, doesn't work for Joanna. You've got to make it up as you go along, and trying to hear, of course, we listen to learn, and we pick up tips and we pick up techniques and strategies and mindsets and ideas and so on. But you have to filter, and you have to keep returning back to, how do I want to do things? How can I do things? Because you may well be the person who discovers some new thing that nobody else is thinking about. A lot of the people who are negative want to fame and fortune in a hurry, and tried something, worked for a while, and then it doesn't work anymore. And then they extrapolate out from their own very limited experience, often not great decisions, and then tell everybody that it doesn't work. It works. There is loads of room here for lots and lots of people to do very well.
Absolutely. So we're going to be back actually just in a couple of weeks before we head off on all our various conferences. And should we talk about book launches next time? Yes,
I think that'd be a great theme for next time. Yeah, because people have lots to say about that. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be back in a few weeks, and you can see the and of course several people have been commenting, is there a replay? There is you can watch the video replay on Facebook. You can hear the audio on the podcast, which will be going out
on Saturday. Podcast goes out on Saturday, and there'll be a replay on Facebook, and it will also go up on YouTube. So,
and also show notes with links on the selfpublishingadvice.org blog. So you'll be able to get all of this at every format. We're trying really hard now to make sure everyone gets it. And of course, Orna and I have been doing this for like 2 years now, 2 or 3 years. We've got a monthly show. So you can always go back and listen to the archive if you'd like more. All right, everyone. So I guess we'll say happy writing, happy publishing and marketing and everything. And we'll see you next time.
Have a good month.